Hey,
Hey!
What is up?
what's going down? You're on the recovery pod. That's where you answer and you either say, "What's up?" or "Hey, it feels good to be here."
Hey, it feels good to be here.
What's going on, man?
Not much. How are you two doing?
I'm good. Hannah, how are
Avoiding
you? Avoiding what?
studying.
Oh, nice.
Stuck in the back and forth state of I don't want to do this to I should do this, but I don't want to do this. And then when I do it, I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Oh, God.
And I just can't get out of it.
You are just this like living me of jumping from one extreme to another. I just always picture those memes you made. And I'm just like,
Parkour.
What is it you think that's like? Is it just like the pressure of having too much to do and then feeling like you got to do it all right now, and like what's going on?
Yeah, like it's like I said before, it just feeling so much pressure from everything that I've put on myself and from just, my past childhood conditioning, that I have to get everything perfectly and exactly the way, it needs to be done. And I can tell that I'm just not meeting up to it. So I just want to give up.
Right. Well, if I had to apply a recovery principle to it, I'd probably say just one page at a time.
True.
It can be a lot. You start letting like everything pile up, and then it's just like this big mountain. It's kind of hard to look at it as a step because you're looking at how far you got to go. You're analyzing your energy level or your motivation. It'll be hard sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not being present, and it's just constantly looking into the future and fearing the future.
True. I feel you too much on that.
So, Erik, what's been on your mind?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you were just saying, and for me, oftentimes I'll quit before I even start something because I get so caught up with how it's gonna go. So like I literally will choose not to do it just to not be uncomfortable, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something that I struggle with a lot. It just anytime I have a goal that seems difficult to start and get through, I'll convince myself that, oh, it's not even going to happen, so why even put time into it, and just kind of beat myself up for it.
Yeah, and it's hard too when you don't see results right away, or you know what I mean? It's like you get started. There's times where I'm like, all right, just do it, and then do like this much of it before you quit. And then I'll get like 20% into it, and then I'm just like rethinking it, like, do I want to keep committing? Am I wasting my time?
Yeah, I think that's why us addicts, like in the beginning of recovery, have such a hard time finding things to do that we want to do, is because anything that we start doing, it just doesn't feel good because we're not getting the results right away, because we have this pressure that we put on to ourselves to do it a certain way, unrealistic way.
Yeah, we want that instant gratification.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's hard. I was thinking about that earlier too. I was thinking any other time I tried to get clean, I would always get clean a little bit, get a job, and then my head would tell me, oh, you're going to work this crappy job forever, and why even bother? But then I started thinking too, like, it's crazy that our minds convince us that it's a better idea to quit a job and stability and potential stability in our lives to go back to instability and chaos. Like, it's crazy that we sometimes choose to go back to like a painful way of living when really working like a decent job or even a crappy job, it's like it's better than waking up sick and not knowing how you're going to feel okay for the day.
Yeah, it's like we'd rather go back to what we know, even if it sucks, than take a risk in the unknown or work hard for something that we now have something to lose and we feel like we can and probably tell ourselves that we will, you know?
Yeah, we'd rather just, like you said, Eric, like avoid that feeling of uncomfort, just feeling so uncomfortable, that we would rather stick with chaos, because that feels so much better than the feeling of being uncomfortable from all that pressure and just not being able to accept yourself for where you're at, for how you're doing things in the moment, for how they're turning out. So you would rather just avoid everything altogether and just slip into that chaos.
I know I've done it a time or two with relationships. Or you just go back to just what you know. I mean, like, I know what this is going to be like. I know the downs I have to deal with. I know the stress, you know, even if it sucks, even if I hate dealing with it, I know it. It's predictable, you know, and sometimes as an addict, you don't necessarily want that, but you're scared more of what you don't know than you are of the pain that you do know, you know, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So what's the answer? How do we get out of this cycle?
Just basically, it's all about self-acceptance. That all it boils down to is just in the moment accepting what's happening, and that just, I guess, keep moving forward and just staying present. I mean, presence is the key to everything. When you're present in that thing that you're doing, and when you fail, instead of thinking about the failure, you think about how that failure is going to get you farther, how that was a lesson learned instead of something that drags you down. So looking at the positive side too.
Sometimes like being in the pain, like for me, a few months ago, I was in the most pain I've ever been, and like it was excruciating. And then with the stay-at-home order and everything that we had, like everything I wanted to do to fix the pain, I couldn't. Like, I hate to admit this, I wanted to go to bars and like just go crazy and like meet random people and just like get out of myself, and everything shut down. So it was like I literally just had to sit in it, and it was the best thing ever because it just made me look at myself for the first time in a long time, and I feel like I was able to process the pain in a way that I never have. So like, yeah, it just accepting the pain and just, I don't know, you'll get through it, you know. It always works out in my opinion.
Yeah, not trying to escape yourself. I mean, escaping your pain is escaping yourself. So when we get put into situations like this COVID thing where we are trapped basically, or stuck with ourselves, we have no choice but to face ourselves. And that was the time when I started the whole getting into spirituality, because I was like, damn, like I'm left with nothing but myself here now, and there's nowhere to run besides, addiction. But I knew that that was not an option anymore. So I picked up something else, something that would just get me further into me, because my whole life I spent trying to run as far away from myself as possible constantly, whether it was drugs, alcohol, sex, food, anything. But now it's like I'm seeing the only way out is going inwards, into me, into my feelings, into exactly the way that I am. Like earlier at work, something happened that I did, and I had a really hard time accepting the fact that I did this, and I've been told before that this does not work, and I did it, and I'm just like, man, this is me right here. I can't believe I just did this. I'm so stupid. But then I'm like, wait, hold up. This is just me. This is just where I'm at. It doesn't mean that I'm horrible. It just means, like, that's where I'm at. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And I really feel like when it comes to this type of stuff, we have to commit. You know what I mean? Like if you set your sight on a goal, like a job, career, just something somewhat long term, you're going to have to get there. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to go through some shit you don't want to go through, but you know the end game. And it's usually kind of up in the air whether you're going to get it or not, but you're going for it, and you have to believe that you can attain it, that you have the capability to get there. And when you hit those bumps in the road, you're almost like, nah, I got to get through this because I've already put in so much time, and I'm after this, and I know that's what I want. And that's kind of how we got to look at recovery too. Like there is no end game. There's no like set place to get to, and then you've like graduated and you're safe. But it is a climb, you know, and on those bad days when those dark thoughts come and the emotions are kind of strong and we don't really feel okay, we just got to push through it and stay committed. Like, I know it'll get better. And what do I have to do to get there? You know, like when I'm going through rough times, I'm like a crack addict looking for tools for recovery. Like I'll go to more meetings. I'm like reading a new book. I'm like, yo, I got to get on this. Now I'll sit in a bad day or two, but if I got like a few or I just can tell like my spirit's off, I'm like binging. I'm like, hold up, nah, this ain't about to get me. Like I got to gear up. I got to go back to basics. I'm journaling like I did in my first month. I'm calling people. I'm doing all the basic like boot camp shit because I know it worked before, so it's got to work again. And if it ain't, I'm gonna find something else, you know. But it's hard.
Yeah, I just feel like, it's like a little toddler, maybe like 2 years old. Like they crawl and they learn how to walk, and then when they fail, instead of being sad about it, they're just like, they take it as, oh, I've learned that I can't do this, that this doesn't work, so I gotta try, putting my foot in front of the other. Like they're so chill about failure because they know like what they have to do and how to just get there, and everything else in life is just like that. But because of social conditioning and just everything that's happened in our lives ever since we were kids and teenagers and stuff, we were made to feel like failure is the worst thing ever when it's really not. So it's so hard. The ego, I mean, just takes a hold of me, like if I'm failing at something. But I should just look at it as I just gotta keep doing what I'm doing. And beating myself up does not help the situation. It only kind of sets me back. But if I just feel good about it all, like it'll actually give me more power. It'll give me more strength to come up with new solutions or new ways,
Yeah, I I just beat myself up so much all the time for anything. Like I've been telling myself I'm going to read certain books, and then I have all this time to do it, but then I don't, and then I beat myself up for it, and I do it with so much stuff, and like just past things I tend to beat myself up, and it really makes life so much harder.
What is it you think it is that's got you hesitant to like read a book? Are you looking for like the feeling everyone's describing they get from it and you're just not feeling it right away? Is it just all the pages of the book? You know what I mean? Like, what do you think it is?
I don't know. It with books, I when I was younger, I'd pick up a book and I'd read it almost cover to the back in like a day or two, and now I feel like I read a lot slower and I just try to process things, and then so I'll get like 30 or 40 pages in and I'll get frustrated that I'm not halfway through the book, and I'm like, well, this is going to take forever. And kind of like how we were talking earlier just about the fear of failure, I feel like I'm not going to read the whole book in a timeline that I'm setting for myself, so I choose not to read it to like prevent myself from disappointing myself, I guess.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sometimes we do that. It's like, hey, I'm going to be in control of this situation. So rather than try and fail, I'm just going to go ahead and, trip myself right out the gate. So one, I'm in control, and two, like, let's just get it over with. Um, but like a big trick I do, and I've never been like the type of dude who can sit and read, an hour at a time. Like my eyes end up getting heavy and I just kind of lose that focus. So maybe I'm a bad example, but I when I was reading fresh out of rehab, I would literally read like maybe 5 minutes a night. I'd read like 2 or 3 pages. If I felt like reading more, I'd read more. If I felt like reading less, I'd read less. But I tried to consistently read for like a good 5 to 10 minutes. And man, like I burned through some books because just that steady progression, I would just run through them. And I wasn't worried about finishing it because I only read in small little bits. And I don't know, I just really liked the way that worked for me because then it became a habit. And man, I hate that I lost that habit, but it is what it is.
Beating yourself up, huh?
No.
I personally, to be quite honest, before hated reading because I thought it was boring as shit. Like, I had such bad ADD or ADHD, whatever the kids call it nowadays, where I could not pay attention. I would drift off in my head. I would be seeing little letters, but I would not be able to process them, the meaning of words. Same thing I have trouble with, like in lectures and school, like I could never pay attention. Like somehow I got straight A's. I don't know how. I can't imagine how good I would have been doing if I actually paid attention to what was going on. But now, after the whole COVID thing in my spiritual path, when I started reading those books, something just, it was hard to pick them up at first because of that whole thing that I just knew. I knew how this shit was gonna go. I knew I would get angry at myself. That fear of failure. Yeah. I would be afraid of that failure to process what I'm reading. So, but then I just got over it because I would just be like, you know what? This is the only thing I have right now. This is my only way out right now, is those books. And now I'm actually able to read like hours at a time. And it's crazy how that happened.
I don't know how you do it. I just can't read that much.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Now, I'll burn through a book if it's a good book. Like when I pick up a new book, I think Untethered Soul, I burn through pretty quick. And I'd damn near read a whole chapter at a time. Like A New Earth is pretty digestible because he breaks it down in like little mini sections. So for me, like reading a little section was kind of enough for me. Like I'd read the section and then I'd kind of stop because it's a good reflection point. unless the next section kind of had to do with the same thing. And if it was all like a similar concept, then I'd read the next one. But I love that, because then there's times where if I feel myself starting to like get tired or lose focus, I'd kind of flip a page or two and see like, all right, how long is this section? All right, I can do another page and a half, no problem. And then, but even just reading in smaller increments, I can really digest a lot, and I can contemplate it for the next day or two. Like with the 3 questions, the Don Miguel one I just read. I read a lot on the plane ride back from Florida, taking the kids home, and I read I read so much that like I went through like 5 or 6 concepts to where I probably didn't reflect much on many of them.
Yeah.
If any, none of them stood out to me. So I don't know, like that's how I like to read in like small consistent increments. But when I read Untethered Soul, that shit was like a universe vibe. Like I heard about that book 5 years ago. Didn't read it until like, I don't know, 2 years ago. But every time I read a chapter, it legit was like, you need to hear this today because the way you feel right now, this is the solution. And it was like, it was weird. Like after the first couple times, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, yeah, coincidences. And then it kept happening. And I'm like, bruh, like, this is weird. But time and place, man. Like sometimes it can be seen as a cop out, but like, hey, maybe you're not meant to read the book at the time you did. Maybe that's why you put it down. You just don't know why. Like, I'm sure when you come across that information, you'll hear it and it'll hit you, and you'll be glad that it hit you as potently as it did because it was the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like that's
For
what
sure.
happened to me with New Earth. Because I first started reading it like about over a year ago now. And then I just put it down, like I couldn't pick it up. But then until COVID. So I don't think I was fully ready. I was ready to hear the concept and just being like, okay, this is cool, makes sense. But I was not able to apply it because I was extremely identified with like everything that was materialistic in my life. But yeah.
Yeah, we get there when we're ready. How far into a New Earth are you, Eric? Yeah, I think you got it, right? Have you started it?
Yeah, I've read about a third of it, but I listened to the Audible version through, but I was at work, so it was like I would pick up on pieces and then I'd have to like talk to somebody and do stuff. But yeah, I've read through about a third of it. It's an amazing book. Yeah, I think that was the first book that I read that had to do with spirituality.
Same.
But yeah, it's amazing. It's hard, but it's amazing.
Yeah, that's why I kind of sent you that one book. I mean, Anna and I had both already read it. I have the Audible version, that Book of Knowledge or Voice of Knowledge. But the Don Miguel books are really digestible. They're really simple. And I don't mean that in a bad way. They're just direct, and they don't go like Eckhart Tolle is layered. Like this dude,
Yeah.
when I give the book to someone who doesn't really read like that or doesn't have a whole lot of this introduced, they're like, what the fuck is this? Like, I am one with flowers and the universe. Like, what did you give me? And they just put it down. And I'm like, yo, skip to the ego shit. But even that, like, when you're so identified with your thoughts and your self-image, it is so hard to grasp the concept of ego. And maybe it's too much for someone but like Don Miguel, he talks about it in a different way. He talks about so much other stuff, but then he like slides ego in little bits that I feel make you kind of understand what that is, instead of like Eckhart Tolle's just like, this is all the college master course biotechnics of ego, and then other dudes just like, oh yeah, and ego, you know what I mean?
It's just lies. It's all lies. Don't believe it.
I love that though. Like I swear to God, if I did not pick up books, I truly feel like I would have been long relapsed by now. Like,
Same.
just thought identification and ego alone, being able to like see a triggered thought and say, nope, that's just a thought. Being able to have like a really shitty outlook on life or opinion about something and say, this is just an opinion, is gold, man. Like, I have been able to rise above so much shit, even if it still affects me, even if it still makes my blood boil, even if it still gives me like a solid 3-day funk, I'm still able to at least like poke my head above the water and take a breath. Whereas before, like, dude, I'm all in. Every thought that I have is 100% true. It's every trigger thought is a intention that I have, and if I'm thinking I want to get high, then that's what I think. I think, oh, well, I want to get high because my brain was just like, man, I really want to get high right now. And without being able to look at that and say, dude, that's just your thought, like you use for 20 years. Like, you're going to have thoughts like that. Without that, I don't know. I'm sure a craving would have dragged me down by now. Like, there's no way it couldn't have.
I agree completely with that. My thought process was just so black and white for so long. And I was thinking of your description of like Tolle's books, how they're like super complex, and it kind of turns some people off because they don't grasp it at the beginning. And it's crazy. A couple years ago, I met a girl that was at a rehab with my ex, and we gave her a ride to somewhere, and she got in my car, and she pulled out all these crystals, and like she was talking about spirituality.
Hell yeah.
And she showed us this gem. She showed us this gem that had a bubble in it, and like if you turn it upside down, the bubble would move in the center of the gem. It was really cool. But at the time when she showed me that, I was like, my mind was like, what the hell is this like hippie shit? You know, like it just kind of like, I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, it's crazy. But now the craziest thing is like, I'm looking up crystals now, and like citrine and all these other crystals. And I'm like, these are awesome. Like, they're amazing.
Wait till your chick starts making moon water.
Bro,
like, what are you doing?
I got some shit to say about crystals, okay? They are so significant to a scientific level. So any electronic device that tracks time, any, like a watch, computer, phone, do you know how that's timed? Through a fucking crystal. They have little tiny crystals in every timer that sets the perfect vibration, because frequency is the reciprocal of time. So it sets that perfect vibration to keep the perfect exact time ticking. It's so dope.
I always thought it was like, because everybody's cell phone switches at the same time. Like, at some point, I noticed that like TVs, phones, everybody's like, I can't set the clock on my phone. I can't change it up a minute or down a minute. I can change like the hour of daylight savings, but everybody's phones have the exact same time. So I always figured it was like a hyperlink, like online connection, like super time that was just like, okay, motherfuckers, all y'all microwaves and clocks are different. Like, this is the time.
No, you got to think way deeper than that. I mean, what keeps that second ticking, that, the distance between 1 second passing from the other?
Oh no, crystals?
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Crystals?
It is what's even helping them satellites to transmit all the right timing to all the devices.
That's cool. I will admit, I'm a little skeptical on the whole other shit, and I don't have an opinion against it. I guess I don't know. I never got into that world. I'm definitely down to check it out. Like with anything, I'm down to like investigate, because I don't like having my mind made up. That's a big thing with recovery. Like, I don't want to X out anything. I get a little off put by religions, because I feel like that I'm getting the vibe from them like they have it all figured out, and I kind of like the idea of exploration and not knowing and gathering
Yeah.
input from multiple sources, I guess, and just knowing in my heart what it is and what it isn't. But I also don't want to shut anything out. So I'm always intrigued with stuff like that. But there are some times where I'm just kind of like, I don't know about all that. But that's just
Well,
me.
the concept of religion basically just took spirituality and then it just divided it up into different subdivisions to create the whole divide and conquer bullshit. Because the message that Jesus sends, the message that I don't know, whoever is in the Muslim religion, they all like say, Buddha, like they all say the same thing.
Muhammad, Allah.
Yeah, Allah is God, but
Oh, whatever.
yeah, just basically they all point to the same truth, and religion is just spirituality, but just was made to divide. But I see the whole the moon water, the crystals, the different herbs and everything. Like
Hey,
it's I
herbs,
corrected
you're a herb.
myself. Herb.
She always be saying herbs. I'm like, why are you saying herbs?
He was
Like herb
giving
is.
me
I've
shit.
always
I'm
said
like,
herbs when you call someone a herb, like back in the '90s. Like, look at this herb. Look at his shoes.
um, I also say pop. How does that make you feel?
Ugh, cringe.
So it's all about believing. So like even Don Miguel Ruiz says in his books, the power of believing is the most powerful superpower we have. Like the reason why like moon water is so magical is because you believe the power in that water and you just manifest it and something happens because of you believing it, not because of the materialistic thing itself. And that goes for everything. And that's why people pray, because they believe that if they say these words out loud, something's going to happen. So they're sending out that intent, that manifestation. So any of those things that, you're just like, well, I don't believe this because how is that even true? There's no like physical proof to it. Well, the proof is just your belief on the inside. If you believe enough to what you're doing, it's happening. And if you don't believe enough, it's not going to happen. So that's why believing in yourself is so powerful, that if you believe in yourself, you could do anything. And I know it's cheesy, but that's just the truth behind it all.
No, that is lit. I literally was just sitting here making like the scrunch face while you were talking. I'm like, spit that. But like, no, I totally like 100% agree. Like I kind of broke it down like that in a similar way too, where I used to work with this girl who was like a witch and putting like little incantations on cookies. And I'm like, how is that different from prayer? She's like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like, get
Oh
away
my
from me. And
God.
I'm like, no, seriously though, like you're performing a ritual, you're putting out an intention. And I think like everything you just said, 100%, like someone who believes hardcore in Christianity, they get on their knees, they pray, they think that message is getting delivered. So their intention is pure. They put it out there and they don't walk away with a doubt like, oh, is this even going anywhere? Because that's where the like counter thought comes in and it almost blocks you spiritually. Like if I think, oh, I'm about to go do this thing and succeed, but then my inner monologue is just like, no, you're not, you suck. It's almost like you believe that more. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So when you truly believe in something, you don't get that afterthought and you just walk away from it like the job's done. You know what I mean? Like I said the words, that's all I need to do, message delivered. Like, and I used to get so jealous of people who believed because even though I had my jaded thoughts on religion when I got clean, I was literally like damn near atheist, like almost like the angry atheist. Like I believe, but I'm mad at it, so I don't believe. Yet I'm mad at something still. So I was always so jealous because I'm just like, fuck, man. Like I want to believe in something, I just don't. And I don't know how. I can't make myself. You cannot make yourself believe what you don't believe. And yeah, like getting into the whole spirituality thing, life is my higher power, the whole concept of higher power, um, just life in general is something I can believe in, and my intuition I can believe in, my gut I can believe in, these coincidences I can believe in. I don't need to put a label on it. I don't need
Right.
to define it. I don't need to say it's anything different than your thing. You know, like just like you said, it's all so there's a Buddhist saying where it's like everything, the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon itself. And that's how he breaks down religion to where everybody's looking at the finger, calling the finger by a different name, but they're all pointing to the moon.
Yeah.
Dude, I just got chills. Hey. Oh, yeah.
So, Eric, what's your view on religion and spirituality and all that?
Religion, I'm kind of like Steven. Where I live, it's predominantly Mormon religion, and there's a lot of judgment with it, just as far as religion goes, I guess. I guess there's judgment in all religion nowadays, it seems like, but it rubbed me the wrong way um, for the longest time. And then my family, half of my family's Buddhist, but I just kind of grouped that up into organized religion too. So I never really practiced Buddhism with them. But yeah, nowadays I can respect and understand religion just like the stories in the Bible, and the teachings are really amazing. Like they really go hand in hand with spirituality if you take kind of like the what we've turned religion into out of it. So I like it. It all connects in one way or another. And as far as spirituality, like it it literally changed my life completely. Like it changed who I am. Um, I literally feel like my soul like came out of my body, and like I don't know. I just feel like I shed my skin in a way once I found spirituality.
Hell yeah.
Um, but it's crazy because I was so rigid with the way I thought about everything, and everything that I was doing, I was always trying to control the situation. And if it didn't go my way, it would make everything so much worse. And then I'd have something else that I needed to add to my list of things I needed to get under control. And the second I just kind of started practicing on living in the moment, and not getting too far ahead in the future, and not beating myself up for the past, everything in my life just kind of started flowing. There wasn't so many obstacles. Like there's days where there's pain for sure, and it's super hard to get through sometimes, but I'm getting through it. And in the past, that would have never happened. Like I would have experienced, like if I experienced the pain that I was going through earlier this year, I would have been toast for sure, 100 times out of 100. But I don't know. As time went on, and I started talking to you guys, and reading spiritual books, and watching spiritual videos on YouTube, and just kind of diving into that stuff, it gave me a sense of peace overall in my life with everything. Like if there's obstacles in my life now, I look at it not as why is this happening to me, or what do I need to do to control this or beat this. I just look at it as like whatever happens, and I can make the adjustments in my life to make sure that I'm where I need to be. Like just as long as I'm alive and doing what I need to do to take care of myself, literally everything else is just going to happen regardless of whether I can control it or not. And that really just kind of changed everything for me.
Dude, it's so powerful to just say, you know what? It is what it is. Like, what can I control? What can I not control? I can control my response. I can control what I take from this. And and really that's it. Like I can't control circumstances. I can't control other people. I can try, and I can accept if I fail, or, I can try 50 times because maybe 51 times the charm, like, I don't know. But, like, I just said 51th. That's crazy. I am keeping it. But, like,
Is that how many times you tried?
51th. It sounded so natural when I said it. I was just like, wait.
It sounds like you had experience.
51st. Hey. But nah, like, yeah, that's where it's at, man. That sounds really awesome, dude.
Yeah, it literally feels like I have a way out. It's like a whole new path has opened up, because before it felt like I was stuck in a cage. Like I felt like I was trapped in this just pure like negativity, and just assuming the worst about people, assuming the worst about myself, assuming the worst about just anything in my life. I mean, whether it was work or whatever. But now it's like, it almost feels like coming out of a really like loud concert with horrible music, and you step outside and there's just all of a sudden it's quiet and your ears get like a break, and you just feel so much more like calm and at peace, and you just get to go home and like chill finally. And I feel, no, like seriously, I feel like I'm coming home. Because before, I would always have this feeling anywhere that I was, whoever I was with, even when I was like completely by myself, I felt like I just wanted to go home. I wanted to escape, to go somewhere where I felt at peace, I felt better, and I just felt at home. And it felt like I never had that home. I never had that place, because anywhere I would go, it's like, even, at my house with like who I lived with, didn't feel like home. So now it's like I have that place, but it's always with me. And whenever I feel like I'm trying to escape, I'm just basically just that escape that I want for myself. It's not from me. It's from my mind. I want to escape from these thoughts in my head. I just want to like run away and hide from them, but I felt like I was stuck and was overpowered by them. But now I feel like I'm in control. I have the power to just detach, not necessarily stop them, because that's not really possible, but I have the power to detach and see it as something that I have, and that's something that I am. And the reason why I was addicted to things was because they would quiet my mind. They would help me run away from those thoughts. But now I'm realizing that I have that power to do that without those things. I have the ability to, I mean, not like repress them or quiet them, but just get myself to a point where, well, this is not me right here. Like, you know?
Yeah, I like that whole concept of coming home. Like, while you were saying it, I'm just like, it all makes sense. Like, when I was young, I can remember being pretty young, feeling just pure, loving, carefree. Then you start to develop these defense mechanisms because someone laughed at you or something happened. We touched something and got burned. I
Yeah.
don't want that to happen again. Then when we get to be like older than that, late, tens, early teens, we're kind of like developing these concepts. We think we know what the world is by our influences. You know what I mean? We think we know how we have to be who we want to be, and we're trying to figure out who we want to be. We're probably getting the image of comparison from, a celebrity or, a musician or somebody in our life. And we just start thinking we know the world, manipulating our moves to be who we think we should be, trying to be who we want to be, yet also affected by things that have happened. And all that gets wrapped up into this ego, this self-image, this pain body, this just conditioning that we've had for our whole lives. And then when we start using drugs, it's fun. And then we're like, oh, this kind of makes me forget for a minute, gives me a little break because I don't have the coping skills to deal with this. And wow, that really did the trick for a minute. And then somewhere along the way, we just lose ourselves. We think we know more about the world. We develop more biases against it. We develop more fears and conditioning. And then we don't know what the hell we're doing. And this whole like sobriety thing is like step one, because there is no mindfulness without sobriety. Like, you give me a new earth when I'm getting high, it's bullshit. Those thoughts in my head are so loud, they're so convincing, and it's bullshit. I know what the world is. It's dark, it's cold, I'm the victim, and you don't get it. And being primed to be like humble enough to, getting sober takes you down a notch. It like cuts you off at the legs, and you have to kneel. You're like, you have to give up. You have to admit that you don't got all the answers. And then if you start seeking answers, you find them. And if you can find some positive ones, you could really make some changes. Come home.
I like the coming home a lot. Like, and what you were saying, Stephen, it's crazy. When we're kids, I was just thinking it's almost like when we're kids and we learn defense mechanisms and we start to try to build who we want to be based off of the beliefs that we've learned through, I guess I'd say fear, like fear of getting laughed at or disappointing our parents or not being socially like perfect in our image. It's almost like as when we're kids and we start developing that, that's like, I feel like that's the addiction developing. And we're at that point is when we start running away from ourselves. So like coming home, it's almost like when we're kids, we ran away from home and we've been gone this whole time. And then once we get clean, it's like we're literally coming back to ourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like a kid again. Like, there's times where I just feel I still have conditioning. I still have fears, and I still don't do everything I would love to do on the most truest and natural state. But for the most part, like, I do feel like a kid again a lot of ways. Like, and yeah, I feel like the old me. You know what I mean? Where I'm not scared to be myself. I don't care what the world thinks, to the point where I'm going to change myself for it. Yeah, I don't want to stand up to every confrontation I have. I don't want to run around completely carefree. Like, I ain't gonna run naked in the streets or anything, but like, I do feel more pure and more whole and more light. And yeah, there's no better words for it. Just coming home, man. Like, getting back to yourself, because somewhere along the way you lost yourself. And you just got to find it again. And it's there. It's always been there. You know what I mean? It's always been there. Like, none of us would be here today if we didn't have that part of us still in there holding on by a thread. Like, we would be long gone. It was always there. We felt the pain. We weren't happy in addiction. That's what led us here. Because otherwise we'd just be out there, unconsciously just fucking off, Something pulled us back.
Yeah, I mean, that thing in us, I mean, it's in every single person. Like, no matter how horrible they're doing, or no matter how horrible of a person they have become, we all have that. And we ended up leaving home in our childhoods the moment that we were made to feel bad for being at home. When we started to be put down for our authentic selves, our self-expression, our authenticity. I remember when I tried to be expressive, when I tried to be me, I was screamed at. I was put down. I was made fun of. I was laughed at. I was just, and so that was a really bad, scary feeling for me in those moments. And I wanted to make sure to do everything in my power to make sure I never came back to those feelings. So I would rather just hide myself, stay away from home, and just move through life with avoiding those feelings, because nothing feels worse than being made fun of for being who I am. So I'm getting much better about it, but maybe that's why still I get sensitive about certain jokes, or I just have a hard time laughing at myself, or have a really bad stage fright, because if I just express myself the way I want to, and if somebody says something about it, it'll be devastating. But I'm trying to just work on feeling like, whoever's got shit to say, that says more about them than it does about me. And that's how I started just looking back into my childhood. Like, whoever did that shit to me, that was not me, it was them. And I kept for a long time, the past few months, I kept just saying that mantra in my head over and over again. It was not me, it was them. Because there was still some parts of me that held on to the belief that, well, no, literally, I was just really that bad, and I really should not show myself. Yeah. A lot of it is trauma, I'm pretty sure. So.
The trauma thing is tough. It's the more I'm digging into just myself, I almost everything that I did to protect myself was based off of something that traumatized me in the past. When I was in school, if I got laughed at, it turned into that, and in combination with how I was raised, just being told not to do certain things because people would view me in a certain way, and that turned into intense social anxiety, to where instead of being myself or even trying to open up with people, I was quiet and reserved, and I didn't want to talk because I felt like anything I said I would get judged for. And that carried on till now. Even I still struggle with it a lot, but it's gotten a lot better. But for years I was I just couldn't talk to people because my mind would tell me, don't say this, don't say that, because they're gonna think this. Or even walking, my head would tell me, don't trip over that stair, don't trip over that stair, because people will laugh at you if you trip. And then anytime I would tell myself that, I would trip sometimes. And it was like, fuck, I pretty much made myself trip because I was so worried about it.
You were just tripping.
Crazy.
You tripping, bro? Yo, I feel that so much, man. I very similar, very much in my head. I was always the type where I was super comfortable. I would be funny, outgoing. I was just comfortable. I wasn't trying to be any which way. I just was who I was. You knew who I was. It's all good. Put me in a room with some strangers, I am a dead ass mute. When I was in school, quiet. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I just wanted myself to be cool or wanted myself to be different than how I was. I definitely did that. But literally right up to middle school, I was just a solid mute. Barely talked to anybody, didn't raise my hand in class even though I was head of the class. All kinds of shit, and I knew it. I just had so much fear of what do I say? How do I say it? The whole where do I put my hands type vibe, and it was just awkward. And even trying to talk to a girl or something, I was just so awkward because it was what do I say to make you respond the way I want you to respond? and with a friend, with anything, but then put me around, you know, other people I'm comfortable with, and everybody loves me. And it's like I could just never be confident enough to go be myself anywhere, you know. And that's why I started using some drugs the way I did. Like, you know, certain drugs made me have no filter. I acted. But it also put me a little far over the threshold where I was acting like an ass and showing out and being rude. And then I always played this game where I would kind of be free and loose. Even if I was being somewhat rude, it wasn't bad, but I would just be myself how I wanted to be. It is what it is. And then the next day, all my thoughts would come back and my judgments, and I'd be like, yo, what did you just do? And I'd feel like so much shame over it and just embarrassed or just, I don't know. And it was just this constant back and forth of just letting loose and bottling up and letting loose and bottling up until I just don't care anymore. Like, I do care about what people think, but not to the point where I'm not going to be myself. And I don't need everyone to agree, and I don't need everyone to like me or look at me in any type of regard. I just am, man. Like, I'm flawed. I'm cool. I'm funny. Sometimes I say shit that just don't hit, and it's just fucking weird. And I'm like, whatever, man. Like, who cares? I'm human. And the paradox is, the less I care, the more people vibe with it because it's real, you know. And it's just, it's one of them things you look back like, God, I wish I could have just been like this sooner. But school can be a trip, man, and just your thoughts alone from all that childhood conditioning can be a real mind fuck. And we don't know these things when we're young. Like, we don't know mindfulness or observing a thought. Like, I try to tell my son, like, it's just a thought, it's just an opinion. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, you're tripping. You're like a hippie. And I get it. I totally get it because I was there. Like, you couldn't tell me nothing. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's also because I started to feel like it's all about just knowing yourself. So like if you know your ups and downs of yourself, like whatever you say or do that comes out of you authentically, it's like if somebody, you know, doesn't like you for it, you can just see it as, oh, well, they just don't like me for this thing, and it's fine because this is who I am, and I'm not gonna try to change myself to just please them because it's impossible to please everybody. I used to be a big time people pleaser because I did not want to deal with the tension of somebody just having like a negative vibe towards me. That, you know, I would, because I grew up in a very controlling environment where I just, whenever there was like tension, it was like the end of the fucking world. It felt like it was just terrifying, and do everything to avoid that to make sure just everybody is at least okay with me. But now I'm starting to realize that it's not worth it. It's so much worth it to just be at peace with myself and just be myself and express myself. And I'm choosing that feeling over, you know, avoidance of the tension. Because the more I'm stepping into myself, the more I feel myself. I feel myself more than I feel that tension. So that feeling overpowers that tension feeling. And it just kind of, it's almost like it's not even there anymore because I don't really care about it. Because my whole being is not to please people, it's just to be me. And whoever, you know, likes me or whatever, that's a plus. That's just a plus. Like, because those are the people that are meant to just be in my life, kind of thing.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we just have to love ourselves. Like, I have to be good with me, and nothing else matters. Because if I do things, if I alter my behavior, if I act in ways that aren't authentic to me, I'm not okay with it. Like, back when I was with all my other friends, I could have been cooler. I could have been more badass. I could have done a whole lot more things, but I was not okay with it because it just wasn't me. Like, I've never been the type to spit game to a girl. Like, say what I need to say to get what I want, because it's not me. And like, even if I tried sometimes, it just, the discomfort I would feel was so bad that it was like, I don't, what am I doing? Like, I don't want to do this. And even if I acted out of my character, just out of my spirit, you know, and got everything I wanted, had a great night where I got all the responses I wanted, at the end of the day, I would like go back and look in the mirror and be like, who are you? So that feeling is like worse than being my authentic self and not getting all these responses I want, if that makes sense. So it was this juggling act for me. And my inauthenticity could never go on for too long, because I would always come back to myself and be like, what are you doing? But I just didn't know it was okay to not do that. It was just this back and forth all the time. Same with my using. Like, I was rarely okay with it. I was always this like, what are you doing? Oh my God, like, get out of this. And I'm thankful for that. Like, because otherwise I'd be so far gone in behaviors and ego trips that I wouldn't be a fraction of myself today. So as much as it sucked, it was there for a reason. It was holding me on by a thread. Like, yeah.
Yeah, when I really started breaking down the whole thing with having a problem with myself, it was just like, it was all because I had certain flaws about me, certain things that I did that were not like, that were defects. So it's like I had a hard time accepting my defects. So if I show my defects to the world, it's like, oh shit, I'm going to push everybody away. But now I'm learning that, so what if I do? I mean, the right people will still be there. And I'm working on them. And I'm just glad that I'm able to notice them. And just knowing that even if I have those things, I'm still worth it. I still have worth. Like, and if those things just happen, I mean, they happen because of the way my life has happened, because of the way that I just happen to become because of past life experiences and stuff. So that's just me right there. Like, that's all it is. And the more I just allow myself to just be that way, then easier I can work on those things instead of just hiding.
Can't light up the world if you snuff out your own flame,
I feel like being an addict, like, this sounds crazy, but I feel like addicts in general, like, going through all of that, it's a gift once you come out of it and get into recovery. Because the whole world, it seems like, even people who aren't addicts, I feel like they might not have the same extreme beliefs that we kind of carry on through our lives, but I feel like most people do have issues with their egos that maybe they work all the time, or I don't know, maybe they kind of like dive in and devote all their time to raising children to kind of tune out of their lives. But with addiction, I feel like all the years of using it and all that pain, it pushes us to a point where we have no other option but to look at ourselves once we choose recovery. And I feel like that's a gift. Like, no person in their right mind would be a drug addict and do the things that we do to get well and to not feel feelings. Because it's, if you think about it, it's insane. Like, we literally, in order to survive, we wake up and do crazy things, and then just to get a substance that's literally killing us. Like, we're killing ourselves slowly with these substances to run away from life. And like, it's just, it's almost like having a normal person say, every day I get home from work, I put a gun in my revolver, I spin the cylinder, and I pull the trigger. And like, that's literally what we do every single day that we're using. And it's so painful. And like, I feel like it's a gift in a way, because we've literally put ourselves through hell at our own choice. And once you get out of it, it's like, I don't know, life's just so much different. And like, once you get out of it, you realize you can do anything, because what we were doing when we were on drugs was literally like some days it was impossible to get well, and somehow most of us, you know what I mean? And like, there's nothing in life, in my opinion, that's worse than waking up sick with nothing and trying to figure out how to get okay.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Like 100%. Like being a drug addict, it's such a black and white thing. Like, okay, drugs bad, gotcha. You know what I mean? And it's easy to look at all the. It almost like amplifies all our human condition problems to the point where we can stop and say the drugs are the problem. But really, anybody who's truly in recovery, they find out very quickly the drugs were a symptom of a me problem. Like I was the problem. My behaviors were the problem. My thinking was the problem. You know, everything about the way I handle life is a problem that needs to be looked at. And we are the lucky ones, because people who just have a shitty attitude, outlook on life, maybe they got an anger issue, you know, they're addicted to control. They control their kids. Therefore, they discipline them by yelling at them, by hitting them, by trying to manipulate them and control them. And they don't even grasp the concept of spirituality, like let them be free. What are you doing on an underlying level psychologically? It doesn't even dawn on them, because they were told and shown how to be that way from other people. And you can look at the guy who drinks and yells and beats his kids and be like, it's because he's on alcohol. But you know, you don't look at the other people who are like shaming their kids, and you know, maybe they don't ever touch them, but they belittle them and shame them and push them too hard and psychologically damage them in other ways.
Yeah.
I feel like I just jumped way to a whole nother place, but like, yeah, like without the desperation of hitting our bottoms, forcing us to look in the mirror, some people live their whole lives and don't look in the mirror because they're so stuck in their beliefs and their opinions and their attitudes that they feel justified by. There's no flashing red light smacking them in the face saying it's because you're doing this. And they look around the world and everybody's doing the same thing. So they don't have a support group to go to because they're angry. You know, maybe if they hit people, they go to the alternative to violence class. But like, other than that, they're just kind of on an island. They're like, I don't know what to do, because they're going to go talk to their buddy who's got just as big of an ego, and they're defensive, and they're like, well, shit, you're on your own there because I don't have no fucking problems. You know, and we are so lucky to get in a room with people of all different walks of life who are openly like vulnerable as hell, saying, this is where I've been. You look around the room and you see nothing but acceptance, because you know they get it. And man, like being in the job I work in, I see people who have been to like prison, who have done some shit, fucking cry. You know what I mean? Because and look at themselves, and I've seen them come in being like this hard ass, stubborn, bullheaded, like, you know, part of me is like, I don't know about this one. And you see the lights come on, and you see them reflect, and you see them have anger management, and you see them talking about these things, and you're just like, well, now be damned. Look at that. You know, it's amazing. It really is a gift.
Yeah, I read somewhere, and it was just like, in order to get to heaven, you have to get through hell first. And we've all, like, addicts, or, you know, anybody who has gotten that, you know, thought identification problem, like, or, yeah, but we've went through hell, and some people are still in hell. And that level of hell is what pushes us to want to get to heaven. because the people that are non-addicts but still have certain level of thought identification, they don't ever feel the need to do anything about it because they're able to just get by with how they're living. And I have people I know like that who don't have like substance abuse issues, or I mean, they might have like shopping issues or like food issues, but it's socially acceptable to be that way. So it's not a problem. And they'll just coast through life. And for us, it is a blessing because, I mean, I'll just speak for myself, like, because I felt like I just went to such deep. I mean, I actually just came out to even realize how deep of hell I was living in, because for me personally, it was that I completely disconnected from myself. Like, the reason why I was able to stay sober for the first 2 years of my recovery without attending meetings and being able to go to parties and not use after being like a freaking crackhead, basically, was because I disconnected from myself that bad. Like, my feelings, everything. And that feeling of numbness, that feeling of not being able to feel anything. I mean, not just like the negative, but like no positives ever either. I was just like a robot. That was such a bad level of hell. I didn't even realize how bad of hell that was until, I don't know, when I started my spiritual journey, when I started really like getting to know what the fuck is going on in me. And I'm like, damn, something has to change and everything has to change in me, not on the outside, because I've moved to different places when I got clean. I've switched my circle of friends. I've did a bunch of shit, but none of that was enough. And so I literally just been trying to crawl out. And now I have a feeling where whenever some shit goes down, if I have like a bad trauma trigger, or if, I mean, basically anything in my life that's considered in the bad criteria, it's just a trauma trigger. I'm able to not feel like, oh man, this is the end of the world. Like, I don't want to go on like this. I'm able to be like, I am able to come up from this. I'm able to get past this. I know that tomorrow is going to be a better day. I know this for a fact. And it always is. Because before, in the moment, I would just get so stuck, like, oh yeah, there's I'm in this feeling forever. Everything sucks. Now it's like, well, this is just a bad moment right now. I'm just experiencing this feeling. And I feel like that's me I'm on my way to that heaven. Like, I'm catching myself in more moments like this where I can just stop and be like, I can get past this. And I feel like this might sound really like I sound like a Jesus freak right now, but that's the God in me talking. Like, that love, that light, it's saying there is a way out. There is another better day. You are going to feel better. You are going to be okay. And then the darkness in me would just want to tell me that, no way, like, you're fucked. And it would just start pointing out every single thing wrong in my life. But now, the more I practice it, it just doesn't happen that way. Not every time, anyways.
Definitely. I really feel like it's hope, like you have to know that it's possible is the number one thing. Like, when I got clean, I really thought it was going to suck. I'm like, life is about to suck. I just really need to get used to it. Like, I went in prepared to just be meh. Like, I'm going to be unexcited. Life's going to be boring, but I can't do this anymore. So I'm just going to get on board with that. And maybe it'll be tolerable, but I truly, in my heart, did not feel it would be good or great. And I went to a couple meetings and I'm like, they were really boring and slow. And it just, everybody looked like they did not even want to be there. And I went to my first NA meeting, and this is nothing saying NA is better. This so happened to be an NA meeting where everybody's laughing, everybody's joking, everybody looks so fucking great. And I'm like, what is going on here? And these guys are like cussing during their share and cracking jokes on each other, but they're spitting real shit. They're like, this is the depths of where I went. This is where I'm at today. They're talking about gratitude. They're talking about self-improvement. And I literally just sat there like, this might be possible, and that's all I needed. I was like, okay, I'm down to check it out. And started getting into the recovery texts, and then maybe heard a concept of higher power or two, and then started kind of investigating that in myself. But that hope was the spark. Like, I remember the moment clearly. I remember just the guys that were at the table. I'm just like, dude, without that, I really don't know. And then I start looking for evidence to support hope. And, I remember playing a board game in rehab a couple days later and laughing my ass off, and literally stopped halfway through like, is this really happening? Because I don't laugh at shit. I'll laugh if something's super hilariously funny. You might get a giggle out of me. But, like, I don't purely laugh like that, especially playing a dumb board game. And it was amazing. Like, just stopping, I almost had like an outer body experience where I'm like, dude, is this for real? Like, I had to pinch myself. And those little moments of hope lined everything up to where, okay, I know it's possible. In my heart, I now know it's possible. And I still didn't attach to like getting there too fast or holding on to it forever. It was just, maybe I'll get there one day. And it was all uphill from there. Like, it was, hope is all any of us need. You just need to know it's possible. And, we've all been through some shit in life, and we're all here. So sometimes putting the whole perspective that, when we get in that funky mood, we don't feel like we'll survive it. We feel like it'll last forever, but we can shift that perspective and say, well, I'm here. I've been through some shit in my life. I survived it, and it didn't last forever. And that can give us a little bit of hope that we'll get through this next one too,
Yeah, we made it this far.
That
Go ahead, Eric.
that just reminded me. That just reminded me of what you said yesterday, Stephen, about meetings. And like, I agree with you completely. Meetings, like the majority of the ones I've been to over the years, the mood in the meetings and just the energy can be kind of, I guess, discouraging to newcomers, because a lot of the ones I went to, it was a lot of old timers, and they would say just kind of how their life's great now, or their life, they can get through life, and all you have to do is get a sponsor, work the steps, keep going to meetings. But I feel like, I don't know if this is true or it's just a feeling I have, but I feel like now the one, like our group, there's more to it than that, and that's being pushed, and it's really like the sponsor and steps and meetings are the foundation for sure. But like the spiritual side of it, and just like the community side of it is important. And most of the meetings I've been to in the past, they're friendly in the meetings, but then once the meeting's over, it's kind of like everyone just does their own thing, or there's cliques kind of. And like our group is like just a huge extended family. And I was thinking about what you're saying, how it's almost like if more of us kind of had that attitude in other meetings when we went to other meetings, it's almost like it'll get more meetings will get that way gradually. And I feel like that's the direction that it's going to go, because like not just addicts, but the whole world is kind of tuning into spirituality and mindfulness. And that aspect changes the way meetings are. At least it did for me, because I felt like meetings, there was a lot of like hierarchy where the old timers were considered kind of like the teachers or the gurus, and then there's just a bunch of students that are going to get graded on how well they do in class. And now it's more like we're all in this together, and it doesn't matter where you are in the steps, if you have a sponsor or not. As long as we're honest with each other and working together, it's like we're gonna carry each other to the spot we all need to be as a family. And if more meetings were like that, I feel like more people would probably stay clean. It would change the whole first impression of 12-step meetings.
Yeah, because if you've got someone who sorry, I know I keep hearing you gasp, but I beat you to it.
No, it's okay.
If more people no, a lot of people look at meetings as like a hub for recovery. So if you go to a meeting and it sucks, or you have people who are like kind of talking out of their ass because they're out there, or you go to one that's cold, or you just go to one. There's times we've had bad meetings in our group, like where it's not like a bad meeting, but it's not like a, oh my God, sparks are flying meeting. We've been having some bomb ass meetings lately. But there's been times where I've gone to this meeting when it was smaller and we were meeting like a few years ago, where I was like, ugh, I don't know if I like this meeting anymore. It just changed for me. Or maybe something was off in me. More than likely something was off in me. But fuck, I totally forgot where I was going. So like people can go to a meeting or two and get put off from that meeting, and they almost like just give up. Like, well, I guess recovery's not for me because the only experience I have is that shitty meeting where, I had confidence in someone and heard, these two assholes talking shit about me after the meeting. So now I don't want to go. Or some people I've talked to have had a sponsor break their confidence, and now they're put off from sponsorship or recovery in general because they see these moments as defining moments of what recovery is. And yeah, I totally agree. If there were more meetings like this, it would be so much better for everybody. But that's the beauty of this meeting, is you don't see the person in the room with the most time acting like the grand ambassador of recovery. There's times where this person comes in and they're going through it and they need something we said, they need something the guy with 2 months who all the light bulbs are firing, who heard something in a meeting that was simple and, kind of like the building block foundation type material, who they share it in a certain way or passionately or just with the right timing. And you got that person with 15 years like, my God, I'm really, truly grateful you're here today because I needed that, and we're all students of each other. I've helped this person, they've helped me. I've had people I hate help me in meetings because I'm open to it. Now, I don't like you. And if I see you walking down the road in the rain, I'm not picking your ass up because you're an asshole and you cross the line. But if you're in a meeting, I'm glad you're in a meeting. And if you say something I can take, I'll take that. And if I could say something, something crosses my heart to say because I feel like you may get something out of it, I'll say it. But that's where it stops,
Yeah, the people in our meeting, I feel like what's happening is that nobody puts each other on a pedestal. There isn't like a certain group of people or just certain people that are just like so always doing great and always, and because we're all real, because, well, majority of us are anyways, like, just speak about what's going on, like exactly how it is, and not come in feeling like they have to be a certain way. And I know I kind of went through that phase a little bit, but I didn't I don't know, I don't feel was trying to be that way, but I know I just kind of, for me, it was the automatic of feeling like the odd one out, because I started getting really deep into, the psychology aspect, like feelings and trauma and shit. So nobody else was talking about it. But then I realized that I kind of added something to the group. Like, it wasn't like I'm the odd one out. It's like, oh, I just got different things to talk about. And that's how everybody is in that group. Everybody's got a different flavor, a different thing they add. So, yeah. And I'm starting to kind of realize that there's kind of I don't know, there's kind of a mini meeting in like everything in my life. Like, this meeting is for like recovery, like addiction, just stuff, life. And then I got like a mini meeting for like in school, like where we sit and we just bitch about how hard it is and we're just there for each other, just getting through it. And then at work, where we have little mini like back and forths, like, man, this is really hard, but it's like, no, it's okay. Like, you're doing good. Like, you just got to do this. Like, don't worry about these people. Like, it's just connection with people. Like, my favorite thing my mom always says is happiness is being understood. And like, when you have people that understand where you're coming from in any aspect, like, that is where you feel better. That's why that meeting feeling is like, you just felt like you're not alone on the issues that you're having in your life. There's people out there who are struggling the same way. And when you feel like there's that same struggle, it kind of takes half the weight off. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we all add something, whether we're going through something, whether we are bitching, whether we are spitting some knowledge, there's times where, you know, I hate to look at it this way, but I do. Because I have to take whatever I can take from wherever I can take it for me. That's how I do my recovery. So I'm never happy to see someone struggling, and I'm never happy to see someone relapse. But when they do, I take something from it. I do. And I'm just like, okay, what is this person doing? Um, what do I see that they've done that I can notice in myself to avoid from doing? You know, or if I see someone come in who's just checking the boxes, not really working a program, whatever, I analyze them a little bit. And that's not to judge them or condemn them or talk about them in any way to anybody. But that's just for my own shit. Like, okay, this person still struggles with acceptance. This person still, has all this stuff from the past that bothers them, that they go on and run in circles about. How many meetings do they go to? Do they get involved? All this stuff. And I look at that and I'm like, dude, that's you if you don't do that. So, yeah, I mean, when people relapse, I hate to see it, but then I'll see that they're dancing too close to the fire or not addressing some of the defects they got going on that they're aware of. And they'll say all the things they know they need to do, but they don't do them. And then they're back out there, and I have to look at that and say, that is you if you do that. So it kind of helps me to just analyze myself. So sometimes we don't always need the most profound thing said. We don't know what we're adding. I'm sure when I went to the meetings a few months ago acting like a full-blown crazy person because I was about to relapse, I'm sure somebody got something out of all my craziness, and I was being short, rude, and just not really rude, but I was not me. And it was very clear. And I don't know. Maybe if nothing else, they saw that I'm still there. Hey, he's here. he's throwing a little hissy fit and he's not himself. But damn, he went to a meeting feeling like that. I mean, I don't know. There's messages everywhere if you're open to seeing them.
The message I get when there's like a newcomer, or just in my personal life, if somebody's struggling, like the thing it does for me, it does two things really. I can almost feel their pain, and it makes me feel like sad for them and want to like just like take that pain away. But then the other thing it does for me is it reminds me of the pain that I was in.
Yes.
And it almost makes me feel that pain to the point where once I'm done feeling it, that I'm so grateful that I don't have to feel that pain anymore. So it almost reminds me just why I'm staying clean. I guess it motivates me. But it's hard for me. It's really hard. I like anytime someone comes into our meeting and they're struggling, or someone in my personal life is struggling, like it, I almost want, like, everything in me is like, I wish I could take this pain away from you. Like, I hate that you're going through that. But yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying, Stephen. There, it's when they're going through that, you just have to look at it kind of from an outside perspective, and they really have to, in some ways, go through that pain on their own. Not on their own, but they have to experience that pain for themselves. Really, because like, I don't know, when I was struggling, like, realistically nobody could take me out of that pain, but I could do things to get myself in a better spot. And the human connection thing is so important. Like, that's what's helped me more than anything, is just having people that understand where I'm at or have been through it. Or even if no one fully understands or has been through something, it's like we still build each other up. We check in on each other. Um, and that right there, it's the feeling loved part of it. Cause like I said this in the meeting a few weeks ago, but I didn't love myself. And when you don't love yourself, it's like, how can anyone else love you? Or how can you love anyone else, really? And it's almost like the love that we share, like the unconditional love, no matter what, that we share in our group and that other people share in groups. It's like that's what addicts who are fresh into recovery or still struggling need, because like realistically the voice in our head is telling us that we're like worthless, you know what I mean? And that the love from other people is really like, it's amazing how it's just amazing how everything works. It's like, if you look at it, it's so hard to like break it down, but it just works, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Just allowing yourself to be loved is a big part too, because a lot of us don't feel worthy of it, or we don't want it because, we may feel we don't deserve it, or we may feel like if we allow something to love us and we truly get lost in it, we may lose it, and it's probably another form of control. Like, I struggle pretty bad with letting people close. Like, I feel like I do let them close, but I feel like I also have like a automatic guard sometimes, especially with people in meetings. Like, I had a couple of people I kind of got close to early on relapse, and really hard too, and I was not prepared for it. I had this whole I'm going to save the world attitude, that if anybody calls me anytime, I will go to the end of the earth to help them. um I will support them, I will be there for them, and I will say harsh things if that's what they need to hear. And there's just really at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do. Like, there's been times where my friend was on the verge of relapsing, and I want to just bluntly tell him something that may hurt his feelings, but maybe something he needs to hear, and that just pushes him away from me. Or I could be there for him and support him all the time, but my conscience is kind of telling me like, you're coddling him, or you know what I mean? And I'm always there to support people, like, don't get me wrong. But it's just, how do I help them? And really at the end of the day, I can't control someone else's disease. I can be there for them. I can listen to them. I can ask them if they want suggestions and offer some observations. That's about where my power stops. But definitely, like, that sense of community, that love, they feel it, they know it's there. And that's one of the things I get from this group too, is just genuine love.